Favorites, the podcast presented by Bet365. We are part of the Volume Podcast Network, live from our Tommy John home studios. I am Chad Millman of the Action Network. This is our Sunday night episode in which we review the faves, fives, picks we put into the contest, dissect why we left some games out, preview the early lines we already like for week 14. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my companion, my compadre, my BFF professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Chad. How we doing?
Dude, chaos. Pure chaos for you and me in the final moments today. Before we submitted our picks this morning, we traded out 3 picks. I don't think we've traded out 60% of our picks in our history. That has to be the most in our history, including a very late change that worked out in our favor. We'll get to all of it. We are currently sweating the end of the Panthers and the Bucs. We have the Panthers at plus 6.5. It's in overtime. We will know more about our final record when that game ends. We have the Broncos at 5.5, minus 5.5 on Monday Night Football. Catch every episode of The Favorites live on YouTube. For those enjoying on YouTube, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365, and now new Bet365 customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code Favorites, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. All right, so the games that we switched out. We had the Colts minus 2.5. The very last second, Simon, like I'm putting the picks in the app and you text me because we hadn't talked about the Jags,
Somehow, yeah.
which I feel like we both liked. So we put the Jags in at 3.5. We switched out the Jets for the Panthers. So we had the Jets plus 2.5. We put in the Panthers at plus 6.5. We're still waiting for the final gun on that one. And we switched out the Eagles at plus 3.5 for the Bengals at minus 3.5. So
Ooh, that one's painful.
that one's painful. And I feel like we nailed our handicap on the Eagles the other day. And I don't know why we waffled on this. I think we got overwhelmed by Lamar and sort of the stats. And but I'm in love with this Eagles defense. They've been playing better and better. I don't think you liked them as much as I did. And there was great fear of Lamar. But let's start with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. I guess like we feel like we've been catching a falling knife all season with the Steelers. Is that how you felt betting them as dogs, fading them as favorites? We discussed it on the show earlier this week. We just felt like we were pressing our luck, I think.
A little bit, but I'll eat it. It just I disrespected Russell Wilson too much. I really did not think he had this game in him, honestly. I really did think that this would be the type of game where the Bengals would put up 30 and they would just roll offensively. And yeah, the Russell Wilson thing, I did not. I'll be the first time I did not see coming. I mean, I think he threw for 400 yards. I mean, he started the game with a pick 6 and didn't even matter. Like, that's a legit vet. Seen it all, been there, done it, don't care. Just a great game. Like, it sucks because we were on them. I go to Thanksgiving. I still like them at Thanksgiving. And then, I get together with the guys Friday. So I'm in the house with a bunch of the runners, and a lot of the guys talking are like, yeah, I like Cincy. And then I see Dr. Nick's luck rankings. I'm like, oh, shit. So that's another spot to take Cincy. And then I read Evan's trend article, and he had an amazing trend about dogs in this exact spot versus favorites in the spot where it's like historically great to take them. And it's like, okay, this just lines up for a Cincy spot. Like I said, the Pittsburgh is due to lose some game as a dog. I mean, now they're 5-0 this season. It's incredible. I mean, they're just so tough to get a read on. And they were the most heavily bet public dog this week. Didn't matter. I mean, they cashed. Everyone had them on the money line, just like the Eagles, and came through. So yeah, bad miss by me, bad reading. It's like brutal where it's like a game I forced in, but obviously seeing what happened with Atlanta, the Colts, I felt okay because it was like those are the two you were trying to get in. I was just like, fuck, dude, please don't make me put those two in.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would have,
but yeah,
I would have liked. I would have liked if we had considered the Steelers at 3.5, right? Like we didn't.
Right. But I never would have put them in at 3.5, honestly.
We were so locked in. And by the way, the Bucs just missed a field goal. So now the Panthers are getting the ball at the 40-yard line, 40-something yard line as we continue to wait out the end of this game. But
don't jinx it. Don't mention it until the game's done now.
I'm not saying anything.
I know. Just don't push anything from now on. Just don't even mention it until the game's over.
Nothing's being said.
I know. I need this win by Carolina.
So we didn't even consider it. Russell Wilson had 257 yards in the first half. I think we failed to consider just truly how bad this this Bengals defense is. And he had 414 for the game. And is
that a franchise record?
It's the most he's ever thrown for.
I believe it. That's incredible.
To me, there was one sequence that towards the end of the first half that nails why we bet the Steelers, why we don't bet the Bengals. And we lost our way. We should have been smarter. We learned our lesson. the Bengals are driving. They're trading touchdowns back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it really feels like the Bengals can kind of do whatever they want. And Joe Burrow is just diming. TJ Watt forces a Joe Burrow fumble. Burrow is stepping up in the pocket, scrambling to the edge. Burrow chases him down from behind, knocks the ball loose. And the next series, and then later in the, so that ends the drive, right? Before the 2-minute warning, it's 4th and 1 for Cincinnati at about midfield. They're going for it on 4th down. And they actually draw the Steelers off sides. But the refs, because the Bengals offensive line reacts, they actually call the false start on the Bengals. And you can clearly see in the replay that it was the Steelers who went offside and they were reacting. So now it's 4th and 6. They punt. The Steelers, because they're veterans and they're good at this and they take advantage of mistakes and good calls, this is where the luck comes into play with a veteran team. All of a sudden, they're up 24-21, and then they take the ball and start the second half. They're up 27-21. The Bengals never get closer than 3 the rest of the game. Like, good team versus bad team. That's the bottom line. And we were enamored with Joe Burrow. I think at the end of it, it was the Joe Burrow stats more than anything.
Yeah, I'm shocked you didn't mention this, though. To me, the game flipped on this really simple possession in the first quarter. It was 14-7 Bengals. They get a stop, and it's 4th and 3 on Pittsburgh's own 38. And fucking Tomlin went for it. I was like, holy shit. Did he really just do that? He knew that it was going to be a gunfight. He really did. I mean, we talk how lucky he is and how great of a coach he is. Like, those are the type of moments where he has so much equity. Who else can pull that off in that exact moment? It was crazy how ballsy it was, and it shook that Cincy defense because they realized, oh, you got to stop us on all 4 downs. This ain't going to be a 3-down type of day. So that, to me, kind of flipped the game because it was 14-7 since he was about to get the ball back. And, yeah, that was just an incredible move by Tomlin. Yeah, this Pittsburgh team, they're special. I really can't wait for them in the playoffs. Like, they're this type of team that, like, we're going to get a good number on them when they're playing whoever it is, the Ravens or the Bills or the Chiefs. It's like they're just this really, really fun team right now where you just nailed it. It's like their offense showed up, but when their defense needed to make big plays, they made them. Like that play by J.J. Watt. Even the second half, they adjusted really well where the Bengals, like you said, they're a bad team. Their defense had no adjustments to make. They have no pieces on that team.
By the way, the Pittsburgh Steelers have now won 9 games. So, again, Mike Tomlin has gone over his win total, and they will finish the season over 500, which means he has never finished below 500 in his career. I mean, the guy is a freak, and he is a Hall of Fame coach. He deserves all the accolades, all the credit. I cannot wait to talk about fading him next week as a big big home favorite. We're going to talk about it later in the show. Hey, reminder, the Favorites Podcast watch party is just weeks away. It's time to RSVP, everybody. Thursday, December 12th, The Wicked Wolf in Center City, Philadelphia. We're doing free drinks, live Q&A with me and Simon. Matt Mitchell's going to be there. We're going to hang out 6 to 8 p.m. and then we're going to talk about the games. We're going to sweat some bets. Then we're going to watch the Rams 49ers Thursday Night Football. To RSVP, check out the link in the podcast description page or the YouTube episode description. Simon and I are going to tweet it out as well. Space is limited. RSVPs are pouring in. Do not delay. All right. The next game, I wish we had considered this game, but we loved this game. Thought we were so smart. Even Raybon loved this game too. He talked about it on convinced me to take it on the show. Tennessee, we added a +5.5 at Washington. So the game started at 1 p.m. I don't know if the Titans actually knew that because they didn't show up until 2:30. And from 2:30 to the end of the game, in the Chad Millman, incredibly optimistic, rose-colored glasses view of the world, they totally won, and our handicap was spot on because they beat the Commanders from 2:30 until the end of the game, 19-14. The bad news is the Commanders showed up at 1 o'clock and scored 4 touchdowns on their first 4 drives. I mean, that was apocalyptically bad for the Titans. They were dreadful.
Yeah, and again, we'll get to the next game, but we were staring at the time 0-3 in the face, and all 3 bets were looking like awful, awful bets. Like every single one was down by double digits.
They were dead freaking bets.
Yeah, and I was just sitting there just like, holy shit. Even though we dodged all those other bullets, we are still just slipping into this mud right now. Like I was literally sitting there just like, man, I'm struggling this year, obviously, but I was like, I am totally out of my depth right now. Like I am totally misreading the board. How could I misread this one so wrong? And yeah, there was just bad luck. Like now that we're like going back talking about this Tennessee game, I mean, how many stupid fumbles happened in that game? Like,
dude, I'll tell you exactly how many.
Pollard's first fumble of the season. It was just like, okay, this is that game where everything's going to go wrong. And the flip side, Washington, like a dam breaking. You gave them a little bit of a groove. Like that running game, Robinson, like we talked about, that sets up that whole offense when Robinson gets going.
Dude, let me answer your question. All right.
Yeah.
You ready? The first Washington drive, 3 plays, 40-yard touchdown run. The second drive in the first quarter, 11 plays, touchdown. Third drive in the first quarter, after recovering a Titans fumble, the Tony Pollard fumble, they threw to a wide open Terry McLaurin. Of all the people that you're going to cover for the Commanders, you got to cover Terry McLaurin. It's honest to God, when I say the Titans didn't know the game started at 1 o'clock, I don't even think they were on the field when he scored the touchdown. If you're going to go back and watch the All-22 and you're going to see everybody who is supposed to be covering Terry McLaurin is on the other half of the field. He is so wide open.
Yeah, there's like one of those plays where they're doing a zone and the guy points to him when he's running by him.
And nobody responded.
Yeah, where are you pointing to? There's no one there. So yeah, that was awful.
If you look at the play-by-play, it's crazy because if you look at the play-by-play, normally it's like Commanders, Titans, or whoever. It's like Eagles, Ravens, right? There was no Titans section. It just went Commanders and then Commanders because the Titans fumbled the kickoff and the Commanders scored a touchdown. After that touchdown, Simon, Washington had more plays, 25, than the Titans had yards. That's how bad it was. And it wasn't even, here's the thing, it wasn't even Will Levis's fault at that point.
No, like we just said, though, it's just a ton of bad luck for a team that is bad. So, yep. Yeah, just again, I'm just sitting there on my couch. And I'm just like questioning my whole life decision. Where I'm like, this week is going to be a total wash. But can we get to the glimmer of hope?
We'll get to the glimmer of hope because at this point, Simon, the Jets, who we had taken out, were actually kind of dominating.
Right. Yeah, that was another one. You're just like, oh my God, did we mess up?
Yeah, because we had the Jets at +2.5, and they were taking a 21-7 lead, and we're just cruising. And so I'm like, are you fucking? And the Colts actually, at one point, had I don't know what it was, 19-14 leader. They were ahead and like they were kind of dominating the game, but they couldn't actually they weren't dominating. The Pats were playing better, but
Did you
uh
see that Tampa just hit the field goal to win?
Tampa just hit the field goal. I was going to say, but
That's okay. Damn it.
Tampa, well, we still covered,
That's good. I know.
you
I wanted
know.
us to get something on the money line round robin with the Eagles just because today it's a really tough day for dogs. Dogs covered, but they didn't win outright.
Dogs covered. We'll get to the Tampa game, Tampa, Carolina. Anyways, at one point it looked like not only were we 0-3 to start the day, but the games we liked and had taken out were actually going to cover easily. Instead, we took out the Colts, we put in the Jacksonville Jaguars, and tell me true at +3.5. Trevor Lawrence was knocked out. Did you just stop paying attention to the game at this point?
I mean, I raged for a good minute, like a 10-year-old, where I was just like if that was Jalen Hurts, I'm sure Matt Mitchell feels the same way if it was Josh Allen. A cheap shot like that on your star quarterback, it's like the closest thing to bringing me to tears as a grown man. Like that and the military commercials, the guys coming home and surprising their kids. Those are the two things. Like
Those things get me every time.
every time. But that cheap shot, it's a reason we protect these quarterbacks because it's just like I can't stand it. Even if he slid a little late, he was going down. That guy threw forms at his head.
Yeah.
Like he took a shot to take him out. And it was just so dirty. And the stupidest play in the NFL happens where the team retaliates and they throw an offsetting penalty, so you don't even get rewarded for your QB just getting decapitated. It's just, I hate it. I hate it so much. So yeah, no, in that exact moment, my first thought was, well, if they drive and get a touchdown here, maybe our bet's not totally dead. Instead, it went on to a run of a field goal, a missed field goal, and at one point they're down, whatever it was, 23-6. And it's just
Not
like,
just that, not just a field goal and a missed field goal. Mac Jones missed 2 wide open
yeah,
touchdowns.
wide
Open touchdowns. I was like, what is going on today?
No, he's horrible.
At one point, I bet with all my buddies, and they'll send me their money, and I'll bet for them for the season. And this has not been a great year for us. And so at one point, a buddy texted me. he just said, man, because he follows in the app. He goes, man, rough day, but I still love you. And I just texted back. I'm like, we're not done yet. And a big exclamation point.
Yeah.
And the Jags, if this is the movie, this is when like we start our comeback, because Mac Jones, this is not what we expected, but it's why you play the number and why we decided to put this game in. Are you ready? In the final 2 drives in the fourth quarter, we were down 23-6. The only way we cover is 2 touchdowns and at least 1 2-point conversion. In these final 2 drives, Mac Jones, I counted this. I went into the play-by-play and counted this. 13 of 17 for 129 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and on the second touchdown drive, a 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
For the game, he was only 20 of 32 for 235. So basically, 13 of his 20 completions happened in that run of 2 drives. Not what we expected, but we'll take it.
No, it's just, again, we always talk about you need a little bit of luck for what we do here, and we've just been really unlucky this season, just mainly about the kickers. Like that kicker missing that field goal in these type of games when you have the backup coming in, you're usually not going to cover. It's just like you can't not have those points, right? And just that's a formula for you to lose those type of games. I mean, that's what just happened to the Panthers, right? Panthers probably should have won that game if they had a kicker. And the same kind of thing goes here with this Jags team, where if they had a kicker and Trevor Lawrence played a full game, they probably steal and win that game. Like their defense played really well.
They were playing really well. Their defense was playing great. And even though they were losing early with Trevor, I felt like we're in this. Like we got a pretty good shot here.
Yeah, and like they kept stopping the red zone. Again, it was 6-0 when he went out and his team was driving. But like you said, that's just we play the number, and thank God you checked your phone, because we literally got off the call just like you, I'm heading out to the book to go make some bets and get ready for the games. And I'm like, oh my God, how did we not even talk about this team where it was like gonna literally my second biggest bet of the day with the Jaguars? But we always talk about the numbers, the key. And if it was 3 or 2.5, we don't play it because we still had the hook in the contest. It's like we got to get the 3.5 in there. And yeah, I don't know who you texted. It was Matt Mitch, whoever it was. They changed the Colts out, put in the Jaguars, and that flips us from being 1-3 right now to 2-2, brother.
Yeah. Too bad we didn't keep that theory with the Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Otherwise, we'd be having an entirely different
Yeah,
conversation.
it's true.
Um, but it all evens out. Like in the end, we wouldn't have had the Jags and we wouldn't have had Carolina. We would have been with, you know, the Steelers and the Eagles and the Jets and the Colts, and we'd be 2-2 and sitting on the Broncos on Monday night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we can't beat fate. We were stuck 2-2 no matter what we did.
We were going to be 2-2 no matter
Yeah,
what.
that's crazy.
There's no sliding doors here. We're just 2-2. Uh, you mentioned the missing kickers. The kickers missing. Jesus Christ, Eddie Pinheiro. We had Carolina plus 6.5, and they dominated the first half. Like Baker was 7-16 with a late first half pick that led to a field goal for the Panthers. But Eddie Pinheiro, he missed from 38, he missed from 45, squeaked one in barely from 27 to end the half. And this was after we kind of got robbed by the refs on a touchdown, who said Adam Thielen did not catch a ball that looked very caught in the first half for a touchdown. Like Bryce is getting better every week, and he's elevating his game from like manager to straight baller. He is facing down blitzes. He's throwing dimes while on the run. Like he had nearly 200 yards passing in the first half. They lost that game. They didn't lose it because of Bryce. They lost it because their defense couldn't stop Bucky Irving in the second half, who finished the day with nearly 150 yards rushing. And they fumbled in overtime while they were driving for the game-winning field goal. So I feel like this Panthers team is finally the team that we thought they would be early in the year.
Definitely. And even the defense, I mean, they played really well. Like you said, they had the turnovers, they had sacks, a ton of pressure on Baker. But the kicker just, he ruined the whole game because they should have been up at 9.5. And we're not here talking about Bucky Irving. They could, when you're only down by 3, you don't have to change anything you're doing offensively. You can lean on the run. If you're down 9, it's going to put more into Baker, which we wanted. Honestly, this was a really bad Baker game. Like when Baker's off, he is really off. He could not find, like, his picks were terrible. The one he threw incredibly late, the end of that first half, like you're talking about, and the one in the second half, I mean, he put it right into a guy's chest after he pretty much had gotten injured the play before. So, bad Baker game. Tampa found a way to win, right? Like you just said, the little things went their way where they had the missed field goals on the Carolina side, then the fumble in overtime after they had missed the field goal. And, yeah, it's a huge game for them. Now, I mean, we talked about it, they dropped those games to Atlanta, but there's still an outside chance they can steal this division. And anyone like me that's a sicko that really wanted Carolina to win this game, they were like 40-1 to win this division before this game. If they would have won this, that would have dropped to like what, 15-1, 20-1?
Yeah.
Like it really would have jumped up because this would have been a huge win for them. And I'm so happy we haven't checked out on this team because it's what, 3 straight weeks now we bet them, and they keep coming through for us. So maybe we hop off, but they're clearly a different team right now, and the books haven't caught up to it yet.
I listen, couple things on that. I don't know if we're going to hop off because the number next week for their game, which we'll talk about in week 14, is massive. Caroline has covered 4 straight. And you're right. Like we walked away from them because we felt so badly betting them. They were not living up to what we believed their capabilities were based on our prognostication for the beginning of the year. So we couldn't conceivably bet them and feel good telling people to bet them.
No.
But they've been sneaking back the past month. We didn't choose them, I think, the first time we bet them, but we liked them. And then we did choose them, I think, the past 2 or 3 weeks. People aren't paying attention. Like at one point, they did an overhead shot of the stadium, and it was pretty empty. And like I said to my son, I'm like, God, it's so empty. Do people not know that the Panthers are balling right now, and that Bryce Young could actually be a really good quarterback, and he's throwing accurate passes while getting chased and rolling out of the pocket, and he's been amazing. He looks at me, he goes, I don't think that stadium's going to be full in your lifetime. I felt really bad for the Panthers because they deserve better. They're a fun team. I like their coach. Their quarterback's
Eh,
playing well. Let's
Carolina
get on
had
the
a good.
bandwagon.
I would say I don't feel bad for Carolina. They had a great run with Cam Newton. I mean, that 2015 year, what was that? 15-1 they went to the Super Bowl, and obviously losing the Super Bowl is brutal. But yeah, they had their time to shine. I mean, they sold out the stadium a little bit a long time ago. But you're right, like it's not shocking when you see their stadium empty right now. They're just totally abandoned by their fan base.
People got to get on the bandwagon. This team's coming around. We're going to be talking about them a lot next year. This was my favorite thing. So like, we're regretful about the Steelers not putting them in. We're regretful about the Eagles and taking them out, but we're super glad that we put the Jags in. We're super glad that we put the Panthers in. We're super glad to be 2-2.
You're not regretful about the Chargers, though? You love the Chargers on Tuesday, and then today you were totally off of them.
Yeah, you know what?
It was our foxhole or your exec decision, right?
It was
one
a
or the other.
foxhole. And here, honestly, we keep fucking doing this, and I don't know why. I need to do a better job of paying attention to my notes from earlier in the week
Yeah.
because we were so locked in on the Steelers, on the Eagles, on the Chargers. And I feel like when you and I are doing the handicapping Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're on it and we're good. And we are getting, I think because like there have been some unlucky bounces for us and maybe some bad handicaps, and we got behind the eight ball early in the year. I think we're leaning too much into what we're hearing and some trends and not focused on what we know and when we have clarity. And I think we're getting antsy later in the week. And I like,
I still think it's just been bad luck. I mean, like we just said, we've been capping the good games, but the Chargers one it's just brutal because exactly what we talked about happened. Where we just said that their style of defense is the one that gives huge problems to Kirk Cousins. He threw fucking 4 interceptions today. He was brutal.
yeah, I guess my issue with that was I was really worried that the they were so injured on defense and J.K. Dobbins was out and their run
True.
game.
Well, no, Chargers offense looked different without him, right? They
Yeah,
only put up 10 points today without
I
that
know.
pick
So
six.
I was just
That's fair.
that was my concern is
Yeah.
like I got antsy about sort of all of the injuries. I think DJ Reed speaks for all of us. Did you see what he did after the Jets lost to the Seahawks? Sent out a tweet, tagged the NFL officials. Y'all fucking suck. You should be ashamed of yourselves. I think it's going to cost them.
Yeah.
But these games are excruciating. I honestly like. It's so frustrating to watch. Like there's got to be a study about between the penalties and the injuries. There must be 30 to 40% of the game is stopped be in relation to the plays because of all the penalties and the injuries. It's just excruciating to watch these games. One more thing for you. Nick Westbrook-Akina, who played football at the playoff-bound Indiana University, playing for the Hoosiers, 20 catches this year, 8 touchdowns, including 4 touchdowns in the past 3 games.
That's crazy scat. I mean,
balling out for the Tennessee Titans.
Was
showing up at 1 o'clock when everyone else is showing up at 2:30.
I think I saw was it Valdez Scantling? I think it's someone for New Orleans who just got traded to him. He has 4 touchdowns in like 4 straight games.
That's my other note. Marquez Valdez Scantling has 4 touchdowns in 4 games with the Saints.
That is so bizarre.
All right, let's talk about some Week 14 games. We talked about Carolina. Carolina, before we came on air, so I don't know if the line has moved, was a 13-point underdog at Philadelphia.
Still 13. Yeah, they just said in our chat, still 13 too. Yeah, I mean, how do we not bet it? That is incredibly high, but this is one that I could bet it now, and I wouldn't be shocked if I moved off this position right now once I read in more into it. But because Carolina is, I don't know how they stop Saquon. We just saw what happened today with Bucky Irving, and
Yeah.
that's like, Saquon again today. That's a really good run defense in the Ravens. I think he ran for over 100 yards today. Like he really is playing out of this world right now. This Eagles team is just so dominant, not just offensively. Defensively, they held a really great offense in the Ravens in check today. So, yeah, they're a complete team. So I get why they've opened this at 13, but I think me and you both agree this feels like too many points to open with.
It
So
does.
I'll take that 13.
I do worry about the line of scrimmage and the Eagles just dominating.
Yeah.
They're so freaking good defensively.
And
Jalen
threes and
Carter.
sevens. That to me is the fear with these type of games where it's like if Carolina kicks 3 field goals and the Eagles get 3 touchdowns and it's 21-9,
Yeah.
we know that it could just be a steamroll in the second half. That's definitely a fear, like you're mentioning.
Uh, the other game I wanted to touch on that we talked about earlier, Cleveland is a 6.5 point underdog at Pittsburgh. So, a couple things here. One, as good as Tomlin is as a dog, he is as bad as a favorite. This is a very good defense for the Browns going into Pittsburgh. We just had this game. We expect these games to be relatively close, and it will be. I expect Jameis to stink against the Broncos, which means he will come back and be good against the Steelers. So I haven't bet it yet, but that feels like a line. We want to take the Browns.
Yeah, but I'm gonna wait just because we're heavy on the Broncos here. Like I'm hoping for a double digit. We just roll Broncos
Yes.
game, but we know it's gonna be a sweat. Probably come down to last possession, get the cover. But if it is a game they blow out, they roll them.
It's going to go up.
We just saw Pittsburgh have the best game of the year. That was incredible
Yeah.
how good they were offensively. So be patient. They should give us a 7 right now. Like Chad just said though, if you want to grab it early before it moves, there's 2 really public books that should be legal in your state that have 6.5s right now. If you want to grab it now, go ahead. But this to me should get up to 7.
LA Chargers at Kansas City Chiefs. Chargers are 4.5.
Yeah, another interesting number they opened to that high. Like that's feels like it's only going to come down, right? I can't see
Yeah.
it getting any higher than that. This is a really good Chargers team. They're what? They have 8 wins now. They might have 8 wins at this point. So, this
they do.
Chiefs team. They played early in the year. The Chargers had literally no one. Their whole team was banged up at that point. And me and you took them, I think, at plus 7.5. It landed right in the 7, right? We got that cover. And by kickoff, it had gone down to 6.5. So most people, unfortunately, didn't get the cover of this Chargers team. So, that just shows how much healthier this Chargers team is now. On the flip side of this Chiefs team, I think public perception is just, they're going to win, but they're not going to cover. So that's the fear, Chad, is like, me and you have just been fading this Chiefs team basically every week, and it's been really good to us. I don't mind going at it again because it's 4.5. I'm going to grab that now. But if it's 3.5 come contest time, I don't know if we force that one in because it's like, it feels like this should be, the number to me feels right is 4 here. 4.5. I'll take the value of 4.5 right now. I'll bet 365.
How are the Chiefs tackles going to protect Patrick Mahomes? We saw what they did against the Raiders.
Yeah.
Could not do it. And nothing is going to change. And maybe DJ Humphrey gets back, but does that make that big of a difference? I don't know.
No.
I'm willing to bet the 4.5 that it doesn't right now. It won't be a full unit. It'll be smaller just to get the 4.5, but it is interesting to me. 2 more games that are interesting to me. You ready?
Yeah.
Dallas plus 5.5 at home. I think it's on Monday night versus the Bengals.
I agree with you. At first glance, it's like, this Bengals defense, who can they stop? The answer might be Cooper Rush.
I know.
But
it's the right number. Like, I think it's inflated. It's probably inflated by
it is
at least 1.5 points.
I just love that your eyes immediately went to that game. Yeah, it's a giant home dog against a defense that can't stop anyone. I agree.
Yeah.
Take the 6. This is definitely going to come down.
Is it at 6? Are you seeing 6?
Yeah, I'm bet 365. It's at 6.
Wow. Then you have to take it. What am I missing?
I'm shocked you didn't mention the your Bears. Let's
Dude, I
see
have
what
so much to
if
say about the Bears.
they're still 6 plus 6.5 minus 120. I mean, we love a good coaches fired team, especially a team where apparently your whole team was in the locker room telling this guy he's a fucking idiot after that game. I don't
Yeah.
know if you obviously you've heard all the rumors, but this was huge. An organization hasn't fired a coach midseason. Is it true? It's 100 years they have never done it.
They've never done it. Dude, honestly,
6.5. Grab
I
that, right?
have I have anecdotes and insight from this. They're playing the Niners, by the way, on the road. Apparently, and I haven't been able to confirm this, but it's not libelous, so I'm happy to say it. The Bears had Eberflus do the 9 a.m. press conference post game the day after they lost, as if he was still going to be there, and then they fired him at 11 o'clock. So of course, like I'm texting with my buddies, and the first thing someone responds is clearly time management is a systemic issue within the organization. Number one. Number two, the Instagram post after they announced the firing, the first comment for the Bears Instagram feed was from a fan who said, "Do we get to keep the timeout or does Eberflus get to take that with him?" Which was amazing. But apparently, uh, this is sourced by my father, who told me this story yesterday morning when I call him on Saturdays when I'm walking the dog, that the one of the reasons for the timing issue is that the Bears, who have never fired a coach in the middle of the season because they're so freaking cheap, they don't want to have to hire someone new. Uh, they had to get the permission of Virginia McCaskey, and she either was not awake or was not available before the press conference. And so then it happened after the press conference when they could finally get Virginia McCaskey to sign off on firing him midseason.
I wonder how many new Virginias are being born nowadays. I feel like that's an old name. Not too
Well,
many
she's
new ones.
100 years old.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get the ones that jump out to me right away, Chad. I would love to hear your view on this. Miami, I feel like Tua, even last week, that loss wasn't on him against Green Bay. That was kind of like their whole team sucked. They're now at home against this Jets team that was their best shot. Like
Yeah.
Rodgers looked actually good in that game. He was moving well. And then whatever it is, maybe it's his age. He just falls off this cliff where he misses these throws, or he just like he missed a touchdown. The next play he throws a pick. Like it's
Yeah.
just been that type of season for him. You can still get 6.5 right now in Miami.
I see six and a half.
That's a line that jumps out to me. It's like
That's
I'll
come
grab
down,
this
by the way.
now.
Before we went on air, that was at 7. That's why I didn't
Okay,
say it. That's why I didn't flag
but
it, is because it was at 7.
yeah, not shocking. The professionals. I mean, we got sucked in last week. You saw. I mean, Evan talked about it. Since they had this new head coach, they've been a favorite every week, right? Even when they're a dog, the line has moved basically every week to them being a favorite. And they've covered that one game against Houston, and that's it. Every other one, they're just getting ruined. So I'm so happy we didn't just force that one back in, because that was a game. You're right. When they were up, I was like, how did we switch them out? Because I did bet the 2.5. I did bet their money line when they were a big dog, but luckily the spidey senses went off with us, and we were just like, nah, this number's moved too much. They suck. I'm not. I feel like I'm gonna try to hold my ground this week with it, where it's like this is a good matchup for this Miami team, and this every game for them is a playoff game, Miami, but like this is really a game where we should see that they are a better team than the Jets. So that one jumps out. Would love to hear your view on this Green Bay game.
I flagged it. I wrote it down. Green Bay +4 at Detroit Thursday night. Detroit's got 18 people on the defensive side of the ball that are on the injury list right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how you bet on Detroit. This just feels like a game. Obviously, they need it. Like Minnesota is right behind them. Philadelphia is right behind them. They cannot afford to lose any ground at all if they want to be able to stay in Detroit throughout the playoffs. Um, but man, this team is struggling, and they should have won that game 42-0. They could not score in the red zone. They kicked field goals. They fumbled. You know, it's so frustrating because we love the Lions in that game and they really dominated. But in the second half, every other play, someone got injured. And if not for Eberflus not understanding the, rules of clock management, the Bears might win that game because the Lions didn't have anybody left. So I feel like the Packers are confident. It's a great spot for them. I'd lean Packers on Thursday night at 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's down to 3.5 at every book now, so it's like,
I'd still take the 3.5. I'm getting the hook, and to me, it's
yeah,
about
me
getting
too.
getting the
It's
hook.
just one that jumped out to me right away because it's like, why is this 3.5? Because I totally agree with everything you just said. This is not the same Detroit team as even just 2 weeks ago. Like these
No.
injuries have just piled up, and it's a lot of key starters. It's not just special teams guys. These are like, okay, your DN, your starting linebacker, your starting cornerback, your starting safety. It's like, oh my God, man. Like this is
They're signing Jamal Adams to the practice squad. That's how
terrifying.
bad it is right now for them.
So that I'm with you, Chad. That one that jumps out where it's like I'm going to take that 3.5 now while it's still there because this line that's going to dip, if it moves enough, we'll come on the other side. Like I'd much rather be on Detroit honestly than Green Bay in this spot, especially if it gets to 2.5 because like me and Chad have experienced it. It's not fun betting against Detroit. Like they're just such a high-powered offense. They're really one of those few teams that only they beat themselves. Like that Bears game. I mean, you talk about they beat themselves there. Like that
Yeah.
opening half. If any one of those field goals is a touchdown, they cover the 9.5. That was
Yeah.
the only reason they didn't cover is because they kicked 4 field goals and missed the 5th one. So
And
yeah, that's
fumbled
just
on the 5-yard line.
yeah, and the fumble on the fire. So that's one that jumped out. Interesting game jumps out. Another one. Kirk Cousins on the road in Minnesota. Are we getting lazy here? Are we going to play the revenge factor? This man
It's not. I
is he
wouldn't
somehow
play the
bitter
revenge
towards
factor.
this old team?
To me, I looked at that one too, and it felt you say lazy, I was going to say facile, but it's the same thing. Like it
But I
just
just feel like
felt.
it's going to be the lazy take this week. It's like, oh, Kirk plus
Yeah.
4.5 dog against his old team.
It's to me, it's not about that. It's about look, the Vikings defense has not been as good the past.
It's +6 I can't say the name of the book. It's
But
+6 right now. One book.
if it's +6, you got to take it. Like to
Holy
me,
shit!
when we got on air, it was a +5, and I thought that was like too
Every other
high.
book's +4.5 or +5, but this one book, one very public book, is +6 right now. That's too much respect for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes, Minnesota Vikings. So I agree with you.
And then just a game that caught my eye right away. Buffalo -3.5 against LA Rams. I have lost a small house this year betting this Rams team at home as a dog in this exact spot. I mean, the Green Bay game, the Eagles game. I can't get sucked in once again, can I? Like, this is literally, I keep thinking this is the exact spot this Rams team covers. And I think we're kind of figuring out now where it's like, no, they're good against really bad teams and they just get rolled by talented, good teams. So I am fighting the demons right now. And I'm going to try to take this Buffalo team at -3.5 just in case they roll tonight and this goes up to 4.5.
Yeah, they're not even that good against bad teams. They barely beat the Saints today. There's something about they are weirdly ineffective for lengthy moments of the game. They were losing 6-0 in the first half. They had a great opening drive, then kind of disappeared. Then they scored again. Like they did not have any sustained momentum or build on their foundational drives at all.
I love our listeners. Atlanta's already down to 5.5 of that book I was talking about. I just watched it move. So
the best.
You sons of bitches. I was really going to try to hit that myself. So already gone.
This is what we do. We give and we give and we give. A lot of games on the board that we've already hit on. So it'll be interesting to see where we land. Simon, I'm begging us. Let's find some clarity. Let's make sure we are looking at our notes on Sunday. Somebody, Matt Mitchell, Gifford, when we get off Convince Me, freaking remind me, Chad, look at your notes from Tuesday and Thursday. Don't get caught up in the moment. Whatever just happened. Convince me. Have clarity. Be good handicappers. All of us. That goes for all of us. I want us all to do it. That's the show. We're 2-2. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365 and now new Bet365 customers. Get 150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code favorites, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Catch our next episode live Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern on Action Network's YouTube channel. We'll cover the whole board. We'll announce our Week 13 contest winner. Download us from Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars. Say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until Tuesday. Love you.